Hello there, welcome to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. My name's Stuart Welbourn, I'm a British working class author and former therapist, and I'm joined by my regular guest, Wa-Na-Nee-Che from Turtle Island, more commonly known as America. Good day, Wa-Na-Nee-Che, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
That's good. Before we start, want to apologise for last week where we had technical difficulties, so we had a short episode and it wasn't really making a lot of sense. And I want to point out that if you do have any questions on anything to do with anything that Wa-Na-Nee-Che may be able to answer, get them in, submit them. Because as he says, he can't answer until he's asked the question. Now, I want to pick up, hey, anybody watching, you'll have just seen Matthew,
All right.
Wa-Na-Nee-Che's son, in the background.
I grab my shoes.
And listeners, you'll have just heard him.
Yeah. Before we
Yeah.
start, I want to explain some things to people. Last night, there were energies in my room, and they were talking to me. And they said, your connection is very strong, but every day you're challenged. People got to realize that when you follow your spiritual pathway, there's so much evilness out in this world right now that you're going to be tested and tested and tested to see whether or not you will continue to walk on your spiritual pathway. A lot of people basically are being taken away from who they are. They're kind of sidelined because, number one, they get certain things that will attack them and try to make them change their mind about their connection. So I got to basically tell people you've got to stick with it. Soon enough, things are going to start changing. And if you're not part of the change, well, you're not part of the change, and you're not part of what we call the sacred hoop, the red road. And once that happens, you can't go and say, okay, I want to become part of the old ways, of indigenous ways. It'll be too late because once things change, they're going to reward those who have been steadfast in their belief.
So what will happen? Let's stick with this for a bit, because what will happen to those that aren't part of the sacred hoop then?
Well, according to what I was told, there's going to be a cleansing. And in that cleansing, we're going to lose 70 to 80% of the human beings because they've chosen the wrong pathway.
And how will we lose them? Is that natural disasters? Are we talking like, in Christianity, what's it called when everyone goes up to heaven? I've forgotten the word now.
Yeah. Well, the only way they had showed me,
Rapture.
yeah, what they showed me was almost like they explode into nothingness. And what I was picking up, I don't know if I was right or wrong, but what I was picking up was internal combustion. Is that there's going to be so much negative, there's not going to be any positive energy that'll balance. So people will just turn into dust. Now, a lot of the philosophers and the people who predict things, they predict that it'll be a nuclear holocaust. And we're getting real close to that. But when people, I always told people that I was told that enough people would take on the pathway of who they really are, we could change the history of the world.
Hmm.
But again, I can't force people to follow this pathway. I'll teach them, I'll give them tools, but it's up to them to commit. I'll support them in every way I can and give them information. And once they find their pathway, I can help it. I can explain it to them, and then I can give them the tools that will allow them to go to a place where they will be trained and educated.
It's all right. I'm trying to word my next question because there was quite a lot went on there. You said that everybody would turn to dust, so my first thoughts was a bit of Thanos and Avengers and how he clicked and people disappeared. But then you said nuclear. If it's a nuclear, war that is going to wipe out people who are not part of the sacred hoop, does that mean you've got to be in the same geographical location then to be saved, or?
Not really. And the simplest way to explain things to people, your pathway will become very easy if you follow your heart, if you have compassion, if there's humanity there. This is some of the conditions that I was told that people need to have. And if they have the love in their hearts, well, they're on the pathway. They just got to find their particular pathway.
But if there was a nuclear strike, how would that protect them?
Well, according to the Hopi, just before the cleansing comes, they said the star people will come and pick us up in spaceships, and then they'll go into outer space, and then whatever happens on the Earth will happen.
Now, some people listening will be skeptical, obviously, and talking about people coming in spaceships to rescue people. They may think that's a bit odd, especially to do with spirituality, but that's not my first question. My first question is, if that was to happen, as you're saying in the Hopi prophecy or whatever it was, there would be panic, wouldn't there? People panic even when it's just, a shortage of toilet rolls.
Mm.
So the star people come down to take people who are part of the sacred hoop. People who are not part of the sacred hoop are going to be obviously violent and panicky.
Uh,
There would be absolute chaos,
they wouldn't have time
right?
because it'll happen so fast that you won't have to worry about any violence.
So in some ways it would be like the rapture then. The
Yeah,
people that,
rapture, yeah. But if you've been watching the news, there has been 100% more sightings of so-called UFOs that's happening now. So again, they're out there. It all depends on when they're going to actually be recognized and who they are. But they're watching the world right now to see what type of direction that the world is going to take.
well, we can see why. Excuse me. For people, right, not everybody is, or should I say, most people can be compassionate and
Mhm.
loving, but not 100% of the time. Things irritate us and things like that. Are people going to be left behind because they're not 100% compassionate and loving then?
Well, like I said, let's take the Bible, for instance, Peter and Paul. And Peter was a very nasty man. Peter or Paul, I can't remember which one, but he was a very nasty man, and he was riding his horse, and a lightning bolt came down. It took his horse's life, but he didn't take his, and all of a sudden he completely 100% changed. He became an apostle. So again, there are signs out there that if people are listening, if it's drastic enough, they'll change. They just have to basically, like I say, get the calling. The truth will be revealed to them, and then they can make the choice.
Do you have a time frame on this?
6.5 years.
That's how long we've got.
That's what we got.
Wow. Now, this is based on a vision you've had, is it? You said?
Yeah, in the vision, like a year ago, they said 7.5 years. Well, it's been a year now, so 6.5. They've been pretty accurate when what they're saying and stuff, and that's why they said people need to change. If they change, the world will change.
People who are listening may be skeptical of what you said because there have been prophecies in the past before, like the Mayan calendar that 2012 was it that was going to be the end of the world,
2022 or
right?
2012. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 12. There's Nostradamus and his prophecies. There's been lots of people have said the end of the world. The what do you call it? The Jehovah's Witnesses have changed their date of Armageddon quite a few times. What makes your prophecy different to any of the others?
Well, everybody can basically get connected. All they have to do, like I say, is plugged in. Bad thing about it is the fact that number one, people don't understand when they have a vision. They don't understand when they have a dream because society won't allow it. They say it and they bundle it all in, oh, it's a dream, because they have no recollection that it's a vision. So if people can't recognize a vision between that and a dream, they're not going to basically see what the vision is trying to tell them because they'll say it was only a dream, when in reality it was happening. And we just got to get people to understand that when you have these powerful visions, they're telling you information to help you find who you are.
We've kind of covered that in previous episodes about visions and dreams and how you find your path, but you didn't answer my question. For people who are skeptical, who are listening, what makes your prophecy any more believable than anybody else's end of world prophecy?
I'm just like I'm a translator. And when they show me something in a vision, I look at it and I translate it. And it's not like I'm the one that's basically say having the vision. And how would you say it? In reality, it's actually the individuals giving me the information within the vision itself. So people have to understand that if they can tell the difference between a dream and a vision, the vision is when they come and they visit you and they talk with you and they show you things. So it's not really a prophecy. It's just basically them trying to say, this is what you need to know. This is the information that you have. And once you get to a certain point, we'll give you more information and you slowly go to the center until you finally get into the center of the hoop and you have all the information that you need and you have all the support that you need from those people who are walking the same pathway.
Which I agree with, but you still avoided my question. What's to say you're not talking absolute nonsense and you're mad and just making it all up? How do we put people who are listening or watching's mind at ease that you're not mad? Is another way of putting it.
Everybody has the ability, every human has the ability to tap into the knowledge. And the knowledge basically, again, will give you what you need to know. And the other thing, when people come and in divisions and talk to you, you can ask questions and they'll give you answers. But a lot of people is so in awe sometimes that they forget that these entities that come to us when we're in a vision, first of all, they're real. Secondly, don't get so flabbergasted and making them something that they're not. All they are is messengers, teachers who become your teacher for a little while, and then if you're ready, they'll move you up to the next teacher. But like a lot of people will sit there and say, oh, my spirit animal is this, my spirit animal is that. And in reality, it doesn't belong to them. The energies are free. They come to you because you have that gift, you have that pathway that you're on, that you have the right to know. But you can also ask questions.
So I think what you're saying then, I'll answer your question on your behalf, is that anybody who thinks you're mad and talking bollocks is probably not going to be saved in the sacred hoop because they're skeptical.
What they have to realize first, I'm just a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm translating messages that I get. uh, that's why when they ask a question, it automatically goes up into the energy world and allows the energies to answer it. So I'm not a prophet, okay? I'm just a human being who is connected. And the information I get is through my connections, but they can get information too through their commitment to their connection. There's a lot of people who sit there and sometimes they're so afraid to come and talk to me because they put me on a pedestal. And people have to realize I'm a human being. Ask a question. If I have the answer, I'll give you an answer. But they have a tendency like they're in awe of you, and they should be in awe. I'm just human like they are. It's just that I found my connection.
I actually talked about that in my book, saying that you know a lot of today's leaders, role models, influencers, and that are just a load of narcissists, ego people, and that the problem is people do put them on a pedestal and
Mhm.
treat them as though they're some sort of gods and that, forgetting, like you're just saying, that they are indeed human, and that you know putting someone on that pedestal, when they let you down, people will make it all about the person and stop following them, forgetting
Yeah.
that in the first place they are human and they do make mistakes like everybody else.
When I first came to England, I was over at Middle Piccadilly, and they had a 4 day get together, or was it? It was I guess it was a week get together, and I had my teepee, and I didn't set it up, but there was a group from Wales, from Kent City, and they'd look at me, and then I'd look at them. They'd look at me, and I'd look at them. This went on for about 15 minutes. Finally, one guy kind of was laughing and walked up to me. He said, "The reason why we're looking at you," he said, "we would be honored if you allowed us to watch you put up your teepee." And I looked at him and I said, "I'd be honored if you'd help me put it up because I don't know the first thing about teepees." I said, "We didn't live in teepees." And so we all laughed, but we put it together. And when we finished, I had to put the last peg in. They said, "Now we're going to find out who you are." And they hit the side of the tent, and a low drum sound came from the tent. And they all looked at there and they said, "Who are you?" And one of the guys in the group said, "Don't worry about who he is, look up." And there was an eagle flying around the teepee.
Ooh.
But then another situation that happened over there, which in a way verified what I believed in. I was in the teepee and I heard a scratch on the door, on the flap. So I said, "Come on in." So he opened up. This guy came in. And he walked over to me, went to his knees and bowed before me. And I said, "Stay there in that position." And I walked around him and I gave him a good swift kick in the butt. And he looked at me and he said, "Why'd you do that?" I said, "I'm a human being." I said, "The only person that you bow your head to is the Creator." I said, "If you want to know something, walk with me. Don't walk behind me. Don't walk ahead of me. Walk beside me. Ask your questions, and I'll try to give you an answer." So again, that made me humble.
That's good. Now, there you go, listener. And I'm talking to you. Yes, you listening right now. He's just told you, ask a question. So send in your questions so that he can answer them. And then I don't have to ask questions that he avoids answering. But seriously, do ask questions.
Yeah, it's really strange sometimes, that things that happen to me, but sometimes it kind of take it with a grain of salt, but then all of a sudden it'll be clarified. And you'll say, "Well, I was right." But I started to walk away from it because I didn't think I was right. And then he comes back, "Yeah, I'm right." I should get that T-shirt I used to have. It said on the T-shirt, it said, "I thought and thought, and one time I made a mistake. But then thinking about it, I was right in the first place.
That was your T-shirt.
Yeah. But you got to have humor, humor in because believe it or not, even the energies have a lot of humor.
I
And
can believe that, especially the
sometimes
things they
they
do to me.
they'll pull a fast one on you.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So back to the prophecy and the staying on your path and avoiding the negativity. That is an easier thing said than done when we're living in these negative times. You know, what advice do you give for people to stay on the path and try and shut out the negativity? What can they do to shut out the negativity more? Other than
Well,
turn
first
off
of
the
all,
TV?
on the prophecies, if you look at all religions, they all have prophecies, and they seem to coordinate with the prophecies of the indigenous people, except they try to say this is what's going to happen, when in fact they know something's coming, but they don't know what. So I always tell people if you feel down a little bit, first of all, the way you get yourself back up is through humor. You allow yourself to overcome whatever is bothering you. And through humor, you get a strength. And then you say, thank you to whatever energies are helping you, and they'll help you even more. They'll help you be strong. And like I said, there are certain things that people can do. The CD makes you stronger. The cards make you stronger. The Mother Earth Lodge makes you stronger because you connect. And you can always feel a difference when you're in that Mother Earth Lodge when you come out. If nothing else, when you come out of there, you feel clean because you left a lot of pollution in the lodge.
I can confirm that. Yes, it's all right. We've just got a notice that we've got 10 minutes left. Yeah. These are all good things like the CD, which we're giving, well, you're giving away free very
Oh,
soon
we
once the
are.
website's done. We are.
Always use we.
Yes, we. The Circle of Life is going to be giving you the CD, so that's going to help you on your
Yeah.
journey. But until then, if people don't have that, have you got anything that, like you say, humor? I mean, in my book, I give five tips on how to, change your mental state, and one of mine is doing humor. Have you got any quick fixes?
Yeah.
Something that you can do instantly.
Yeah. You can change your whole atmosphere. Boom, just like that.
How?
Well, through humor. Humor will
Oh
basically
yeah, humor.
change the whole atmosphere.
I yeah, that's well. There we go, listeners.
But
Me
I
and
would
Wa-Na-Nee-Che in agreement on that. Humor is the best one that you can use because, like a joke, you can't be in a negative emotional state and be laughing.
yeah.
Not enjoying laughing anyway.
What I'd like to do too is set up workshops with the cards and the CD. But the CD, I would like to actually show people that if they're going to run a group, how to interpret. And I won't allow them to interpret until I know they know how.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, because a lot of them will sit there and you say, well, in my when I was walking down the pathway, a bear came and the bear gave me this. Well, your first thing you start doing is said, okay, what's the symbolization of a bear? So you interpret the bear the way it is interpreted in a book. When you have to interpret the bear on what you feel, the first time he says bear, what picture came into your head? Because that's what the bear is saying. The bear can have thousands of different type of gifts or explanation of what they represent. You got to pinpoint, and the way you pinpoint is you have to learn to go with your first thought. because that's the message that you're getting from the bear or whatever energy comes on that pathway. And then when you see the gift, sometimes the gift itself symbolizes a problem. So by the time you go to the four directions, those three gifts that you got will help you resolve the problem that is recognized at the end.
That's awesome. I'm just going to say something here because we talked about humor. I think I'm going to have to, in when I'm editing these podcasts, go back and like see what you answer and then change my question for a different question in because you
Uh,
we agreed upon humor being a quick reset for your emotions. I wanted you to add another one. Is there another quick reset other than humor
the
that you can think of?
clarification, I would say,
Hmm?
because when you sit there and you're able to find the answer, you feel great. But humor has to basically clear your mind so that the message can come through. It's just like you were saying, okay, if you're sitting in the park, how do you get home?
Through memory of the route. You either get a taxi, a bus, or walk.
Yeah, yeah, you walk to home.
Hmm.
So when you're trying to find out who you are, isn't it the same way? You go from one step to the next step to the next step until you finally realize, hey, this is what it all means. I now understand the connection. So it has to go in layers. Like in a CD, talk about, remember the pebble going into the water and the ripples? Well, each ripple ends when it gets to the edge. So you got to go from one ripple to the next until you get to the center.
Right, we're going to have to wrap up any minute now before it
Okay.
kicks us out. I'm still coming back to my thing. I'm going to give you a scenario. Answer quickly in a short answer without talking about visions, without the CD, without the Mother Earth Lodge. Quick or humour. A person is at work and people are talking politics and everything gets into, arguing over who's right and who's wrong, and a person's feeling angry and depressed. Other than humour, what's a quick reset of your mood to get rid of those negative energies?
Well, the first thing is don't believe the other person at first until it's like we say, walk a mile in someone's moccasins before you judge them. Or the other one says basically, if you have nothing good to say, don't say nothing at all. And then when you finally find out what that individual is talking about, then you can answer it. But before that, you answer it in a way that you normally wouldn't answer because you want to do it quick, but you
Yep.
don't have all the information yet. So as you gather the information, all of a sudden you say, wow, I understand that. So then it goes to the next level. Wow, I understand that. But humor a lot of times will help you clear your mind so that your spirit can take over.
It's quite good that we've wrap up on that note because I've just written a bonus chapter to my book that I'm giving away on my website, as to get email addresses as a lead magnet, as they call them. And I was just saying that one of the things to do when you are, in an agitated state, because my report, this chapter's called "Do People Really Piss You Off?" Well, they don't, do they? You allow yourself to become agitated, and the best thing to do is to pause and go through what you just said, because by that pausing, you are responding rather than reacting.
Our mind works one way. Give you an example. I was going to level a lawsuit against a bank, and I had all the documentation. I had all the things I needed, and it would have been an open and shut case. I would have won. Then I sat there and I said, if I do a lawsuit, I'm no better than they are. I said, what I have to look at is this. Let's agree on both sides and then let it go.
I understand the philosophy there. It's like, don't get yourself bogged down with it, because is it really worth all that time and negativity
Yeah.
over some litigation? So anyway, on that note, we're going to have to wrap up for this week. It's been
Okay. Let
fascinating.
me let me leave it with my dad said.
Yes.
My dad said, when you get into a heated argument, turn and walk away and see how long that person will argue.
Wise words to finish on there.
Yeah.
So once again, listener or viewer, yes you now, get your questions into Wa-Na-Nee-Che so he can answer them, and come back next week, or subscribe if you haven't done already. Thank you for tuning in to the Straight Talk Sacred Pathway podcast. I hope you'll come back for our next episode next week. And if you've got any questions you'd like me to put to Wa-Na-Nee-Che, you can email me at stuart@realityresponsibility.com. Details should be in the description where you're listening to this podcast.